action. Now we have I'd like to introduce my wife Jan, who is I did the graphics. She did all the organizational and the narrative and all that sort of thing. This is a trip that was taken back in 2010 to Cambridge in the United Kingdom. We had a little longer time there than we had originally planned due to a certain volcano in the island of Iceland. So we had some extra time to check out the area. So we were in Cambridge, and from that, I guess I will let her begin.
The reason we were in Cambridge was, as any of you who have kids know, you wind up doing different things and going places you never dreamed of because of your kids. And we wound up in Cambridge because of our younger daughter. She was accepted there to do her PhD. So we went, and we also must give due diligence to Bill Gates because she was a Bill Gates scholar.
Wow.
So that made her way and made a very special time for her there. So we were there and started walking. The town of Cambridge has approximately 109,000 people with 22,000 students on top of that. The town and the university actually, they're very integrated, but they're also apart. Things that can happen on the campus are out of the domain of the town. They have their own police, the university does, separate from the town. They have some own laws that are theirs, not the town's, and vice versa. So it's an interesting integrated community. The university obviously is the center of the town. Their claim to fame is that they were founded in 1209, which upsets them because Oxford was founded in 1167. So that's the one thing they're not happy about, that Oxford was founded before them, but they've done all right on their own. The university itself, to explain, has what is called colleges. And there are 38 colleges. And you actually have to be accepted into a college before you can get into the university. These colleges are, most of them, I believe 29 of them are all undergraduate colleges. There are 2 graduate colleges, and there are a number of seminaries affiliated with the university, basically all Protestant at this point. So our daughter, not really knowing for sure what college to go for, she, as a graduate student, picked one of the 2 graduate colleges, which was Clare's Hall. And the older the college, the more prestige most of them have. Her college was founded in 1966, so they have a building. She was able to stay in their residence facilities the first year, but they don't. And they have a dining hall, but they don't have what a lot of them have. She had friends in St. John's, which is one of the older ones, St. John's and King's College. You hear about King's College all the time. They have their infamous for their Christmas service, beautiful chapel, cathedral, right on the River Thames, not the River Thames, the River Cam. And St. John's is also one of the more renowned ones. So she got to go to parties at St. John's, and these were parties. They had fireworks. They had brides brought in. They dressed to the hilt. They were in gowns and whatever else. They went on all night. It pays to have friends in high places. But anyway, because of our extended stay, our first visit there, we went back 2 other times as well, and we were always walking, because we weren't about to try to get a car and drive the other side of the road. And there are 30,000 bicycles there. You do not want to be riding a bicycle if you don't really know where you're going or anything else, because it's a little bit dangerous to your health. So because of our extended stay, we were in an older hotel right on the edge of the campus area. So we just would start walking, and you'll see where we went. I can help you tell, Mike.
Yeah. Our hotel was down in this area. And then the initial set of slides is going to go along Trumpington Street. And we'll be passing, King's College and Peterhouse and these things, of Trinity and so on, up into this direction. And then across the River Thames,
Not Thames, Cam.
Cam, I'm sorry. You go across the fen, which is kind of like a marsh, sort of, to other areas over here, and that's where our daughter lived, was out
Later
this
on,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let Mike show a picture here and we will proceed.
Trumping on the street.
Okay, the Fitzwilliam Museum was a really neat place. It's the biggest historical museum outside of London. And they're particularly known for their medieval collection. Just amazing stuff. We spent a good part of the day there and were most impressed. And then, obviously, from the get-go, you start seeing bicycles. We loved all these posters that kept you abreast of what was going on campus and in town. And Peterhouse was the oldest of the colleges, and that was founded in 1284. So these places have a lot of history behind them. In most cases, you can go into and on the grounds of these colleges except during exam period, and they are closed. Also, they're very strict. You cannot walk on the grass. If you are a professor or a hired student, a graduate student, and has earned honors, then you can walk on the grass. Otherwise, you're not walking on the grass. This is the Pembroke College Chapel, which, as indicated on there, was completed in 1665, and it was Christopher Wren's first completed work. So many names of history are affiliated here. You've got Sir Isaac Watson, you've got Darwin, so many people were here, so when you get the history, it's just overwhelming. This is a relatively new addition. I've got a note on here. Here.
I just signed up for 2020.
Shoot. That's the time eater. There's a grasshopper on top of it. This is a grasshopper. It doesn't show up too well. And there's no actual numbers on there to indicate the hour. But the grasshopper, excuse me, is indicative of eating time, how fast time goes by. So the grasshopper's eating the time. And this was St. Catherine's College. They're all kind of right along this one, not all of them on one street, but all of the older ones. And again, bicycles, bicycles, bicycles. And the bicycles do not stop for pedestrians if you're trying to cross the street. That was a sign I thought was interesting. And this is the entrance to King's College, and that's their the chapel there. It's renowned. That's Trinity College. All these names, I'm sure, if not the college itself, you've heard of them one way or another. And this was the library at Trinity College, which Christopher Wren built. Each of these colleges has their own financing. So it's not like Cambridge University is giving them money to do this, that, or the other thing. They finance themselves. So the older schools have the money for the parties, for the sports things. In fact, the university itself has very few sports facilities. It's the individual colleges that have them. In fact, their swimming team actually uses a town swimming facility for their swimming team. The only thing that does seem to have, every college seems to have, is their own crew rowing facility. They share a facility on the River Cam, but they all have their own individual clubs and boats. And this is an open market that was open most days. Mostly clothing. The round church was built by the Normans, and it was the northern border of the medieval town of Cambridge. It's a wayside chapel for travelers. It is maintained now by the monks of St. John's Hospital until it became a parish church. It was built between 1113 and 1140. It is one of 5 remaining round churches in England. It is the second most visited place in Cambridge after King's College.
That sounds good.
And this was leaving the main part of the campus and walking to, after our daughter had a flat that she shared with some of her classmates. And along the way, you pass cows that are grazing freely along the river. Anywhere you're along the river, you'll see the cows grazing. Election time, when we got there. It was very civilized. It was only 6 weeks before, and that's when the signs went up. And that was it. And this was our daughter's neighborhood favorite pub, Red Bull. And we really did like their food.
This is yours.
It was a good place. And that was another pub that we had dinner at. And then we got to the river cam. It's a little narrow thing. In fact, our daughter did crew while she was there, and our older daughter had done crew, but she was down in Tennessee at the time. You have this little narrow river, so only 2 boats go at a time. So it's timed rather than having everybody lined up, everybody taking off at the same time. 2 go at a time, then 2 more go, 2 more, and everything's timed because the river is so narrow. We got to, a friend of Meredith's was a St. John's College member, so we got to go in there and then access the river from there. And crossing the river Cam at that point is the Bridge of Sighs, which is modeled after the one, I believe it's in Venice. And actually their thought is it's the Bridge of Sighs because when students have left and finished their exams, it's like, oh. Can everyone read the writing under there? Okay. Yeah, there actual was a court held in St. John's College at one point. And then you have what's called the backs. If you're on the river itself, and you're going up and down, you can see the backs of the colleges. That's a whole other perspective, which was really very special. And one of Cambridge's renowned things, and they're infamous for, is their punts, their punting boats. They're flat wooden boats, flat-bottomed wooden boats, and you pole it kind of like a gondolier would be, because the water isn't that deep in the river. You push on. So we were doing a punt ride.
Yeah.
Blue sky from England.
You know, all our times there, we really had very little rain. Amazingly, we got, well, little did we know, we just met this young man when we went out for the punting ride the first time. He is now our son-in-law.
Who planned that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
My infamous story was just before we went, our daughter went over to England. She'd broken up with her boyfriend of 3 years, who we very much liked. So my parting words were, please don't fall for a foreign national.
That one, you jinxed yourself.
She's from the West Coast, but hey. So there's our back of our daughter's head as we're punting down the river Cam. Yeah, that was the bridge that supposedly was designed by Sir Isaac Newton. That had, there was no nails in it or
There were no
something?
nails used in the construction of the bridge.
Totally engineered.
And supposedly designed and engineered by Sir Isaac Newton, but that seems to be a fable.
Replaced many times since.
Another bridge.
There's our daughter, Meredith. She's taking a turn at work, pushing a boat with a pole. There we go.
How'd you like for that?
Who's polling that one?
Yeah, your daughter.
No, son-in-law.
Oh.
That's New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah. And amazing, as we travel around Europe, Canadian geese and mallard ducks are everywhere. Then we did one day go into King's College. I think initially we couldn't go in because they were having exams. We were able to get into the chapel later, which is most impressive.
Wow, beautiful. Like
As
castle.
I said, the upper stained glass represents the Old Testament and the lower the New Testament, and they were commissioned by Henry VIII.
I was just thinking
Henry VIII also was responsible for the organ screen, and his initials and Anne Boleyn were, are in the, I forget where, but on this wooden facade. There's so much Tudor symbolism in there
Yeah.
to appreciate.
And those are the organ pipes that are kind of goldish in color.
Yeah. And this was a lovely Rubens painting that's in front of the chapel. And it was a group of nuns in Belgium that had the painting and donated it to the college in '61. This is what got me, as having been a church treasurer for many years and been involved in churches, this is their total list of organists. And how many 100-year history, and I know our church, where we used to be, and other ones, you go through organists, can be very quick succession because they're hard to find and hard to keep. So that represents 400 years, and they only had like 20 organists. I guess it was a pretty good job.
My brother Ed's learning the pipe organ, so when he comes, you can holler at him.
All right, well, he's guaranteed a job for life. Said they're very strict about you can't walk on the grass. And then one of our later trips, we finally decided we'd walked enough, so we took a hop-on, hop-off bus to see if we missed any parts of town. And what we hadn't gotten to was the American Cemetery that's north of town. And that was most impressive. I believe it's the only U.S. cemetery for World War II
In Britain.
in Britain.
The tablets of the missing are on the right wall.
Are all those graves missing people?
No,
No, not the grave, not the stone markers,
wall.
no. These tablets have the names of those missing.
There's-
Let's see.
we were
Tough
able
to see.
Yeah.
But there is Joseph Kennedy Jr. And this one's a little easier to see. Alton G. Miller, Glenn Miller.
So the cemetery is on land that the university donated, and there are 3,800 headstones, 3,732 Latin crosses, and 80 Stars of David. There were missing in action 5,127, and 24 unknowns, and it was dedicated in 1956. It's the most moving place to be.
And this was the outside wall of
The chapel.
the chapel, a map of the UK, and it showed where a United States unit of battalion or larger size was stationed during the World War II.
I I will add just a little bit. First of all, has anybody read Educated? No. Oh, you're missing something. It's not an easy read because of what's described, but it's a most interesting book. It's by a gal who was also a Gates Scholar at Cambridge. She was from a fundamentalist Mormon family in Utah, went through incredible abuse at the hands of her family. Didn't believe in education, homeschooling was minimal. Just incredible life she led. Anyway, our daughter did know her at Cambridge because the Gates students that are receiving scholarships, it's set up as a balanced thing. The year our daughter was accepted, there were 17 students from the United States that went. But they picked from around the world. It's not just U.S. students. They want a balance of students from everywhere. So most of her acquaintances were far. In fact, when she had her flat, she had a roommate from Chicago, one from Germany, one from Sweden. They're a very tight group. They actually have their own student union building. And when they're first there, they do a lovely initiation. They take them all around the area. They went to Bath, they went to Stratford-on-Avon, all around. They also gave them a copy of this book, which is History of the Town of Cambridge and the University, which I read cover to cover. It was fascinating, a lot of facts, but really interesting history of the whole place. So when she was there, I had read the book, and I'm saying, whoa, this sounds like the same time you were there. And she said, yeah, I knew her. So it's, they're a very close group, and I said she wound up with a husband. I was there, so. That was great. But we very much enjoyed having the excuse to go over there and visit. There's a wonderful Antarctic history discovery museum there. That,
Robert Perry
yeah,
Museum. It's called Robert Perry Polar Museum.
yeah, fascinating. She was in Earth Sciences, and they have an Earth Science Museum, part of the university. Really, really neat. Had wonderful opportunities. Her dissertation was on, her field of study was paleoclimatology, which is global warming way back when. So she went to Angkor Wat in Cambodia and did core samples to see what the climate had been at the time of the demise of Angkor Wat, to see if climate might have been another factor in its demise, which she concluded it was a factor. And so she got to go there. Just a wonderful, positive experience, and I said we were thrilled to get an excuse to go over there. And each time we went on to someplace else in Europe as well, so it got us to go to Europe the way we would have done if we hadn't had her. So we are thankful. I wanted to share this with you.
Thank you.
Jerry has a question.
Did you say your son-in-law was British?
No,
He's American. Wow.
Yeah. yeah, West Coast, U.S. Yes.
So
I have
where
a
is your-
question.
Go ahead.
I've seen a lot of pictures like this and been in London several times myself. And these beautiful historical buildings, huge buildings. And I've never seen any work on the buildings. It makes me wonder what kind of maintenance they have to maintain and look so nice.
Yeah, I think when we were there soon after, like the Tower of London was all under scaffolding and partially closed.
It was.
So they
They
are
worked
doing,
on it.
yeah. One thing I read, which was fascinating, you know, if you've gone to any schools, universities, colleges, they're always asking for money, right? Well, Cambridge just finally dawned on them about 10 years ago, they need to ask for money. They never did. And they realize that they have things to maintain, and not all the schools have the money from their alumni to maintain them. So they have started doing some solicitation, realizing there's money out there, but they weren't taking advantage of it.
Outside of the Queen and the royal family, I believe it's King's College is the next largest landowner in Britain.
Wow. Interesting.
Huh.
Where's your daughter and her husband now? What is she doing?
They're in San Francisco. He's a doctor. He got his PhD in public health, and then now he's in medical school. So they're there.
A doctor.
He's in residency in San Francisco.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
She's working for an environmental consultation. Consultant.
Consultant.
Company. And she's involved with a high-speed rail project in California,
Wow, nice.
part of which got defunded, but there's still a portion that's going to happen as a sample of what can be done.
My son's a mailman. I'm gonna get after him. Maybe the grandkids.
He's the smart one.
Mailman. Here's in the army.
I have to go to the post office every day.
One of the neat things about the Gates program is like, because her husband started out as just a master's student. And if you do a master's program successfully, you have the option to stay on for a PhD, and they will also fund it.
Wow.
The only thing that was kind of ironic was that she was at the University of Florida for her master's, and she was getting more money funded there than she got in England, where the cost of living is that much higher. So it's, yeah, they're paying for it, but
Paying for your health care.
you gotta watch
And
your
your
battles.
college. Cool.
Thank you.
That was great.